Y'all start fighting about
Find you.
Real fighting, I'm off the show.
Real fighting.
Split fighting.
All right, ladies, we are back. Thanks again for joining us. Ladies That Wine, episode 2. How my ladies doing?
Oh my God.
Yes. Okay, so the people have spoken, so we got to give the people what they want. So, more questions, more wine. So, ladies, a lot of women have emailed me, okay, and commented, and they want to know, why are so many black women single?
The nerve of them.
And who
it's
said
not only
so
us.
many of them are single?
So I personally feel the reason why
I feel attacked.
Why are they attacking us? What about other
single
races?
because they're not open.
Okay.
Most black women that I know that are single, they have like this checklist, and they have to have this, and they have to have that, and they have to have this, and they have to have that. And there's nothing wrong with having standards.
You don't have a checklist?
No.
You don't have a checklist, Siobhan?
No.
Okay. Right now,
I mean, we all have a checklist.
No.
We all have a checklist.
But you know what?
It's
So
environment.
I also think that on your checklist, you also need to look and see like really what's really important, because like we have stuff on here that may or may not be as important, and that's just my honest opinion. Yes, I have a standard of what kind of man I would want. No, would I want a man that beats me? Hell no.
Right, that's a standard.
So-
That's a requirement.
But I also feel like we're not open either. Like we have these high standards. Like we can only date a man that can do all of these things. And you may meet a man that may not have all of them, but may have half of those qualities. That's where I'm coming from. That's how I personally feel. And I see a lot of my friends that are single, and that's the reason why. And they're also comparing themselves to other people's relationships and looking at another man, you know, how they treat their woman and things like that. And me personally, you don't really know what goes on in their relationship anyway.
Of course, but is that a black woman thing or is that just a woman thing?
Woman thing.
I don't think it has to be a black woman thing, but it's a woman thing in general.
Or people thing or humanity thing. Like what we do is compare, right? Like
You
that's
do.
what social media does for you.
Social media is the killer of relationships. That's the killer. That is the killer of relationships. That's the killer of people's lives. Like nowadays, like you really have to slow down from social media, because you excuse my French, you'll be having yourself fucked up. You will. You just will.
I think I kind of agree with what you just said to an extent. It's not a black woman thing. I think it's a woman thing. I think the difference when it comes to black women, because we're black women, we can speak to black women.
Correct.
That's where the difference comes in. I think when it becomes a black woman thing, it could be because most black women are not open to dating outside of their race.
100%.
That is, I think, the reason why.
But why do they have to date outside?
I think a preference is a
No.
preference.
I'm not saying I'm not disagreeing with it. I think that is a large portion of it, and I'm gonna say I might get a lot of backlash from this from some. When you look at probably the percentages, right, of available black men with the standards of some women might be looking for, black women might be looking for.
Yeah.
That percentage might not be that large for the amount of black women that are available.
Correct.
The ratio is off. That the ratio of the amount and number or percentage, whatever you want to call it, of black women that are single versus the ratio or percentage of black men
That are available, meet your
and meet those
expectations and your
expectations.
check boxes.
That ratio does not match.
Sure, but
that's
there's
the
a
reason
deeper
why.
there's
That
a
may be
deeper
the reason
issue
why.
behind that, right?
Right.
Which I don't think is part of Ladies That Wine. But I do agree. Listen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't, like, there's not still a certain standard that you have. So
I think that things change
personally-
generationally too, because like before our generation, or like when we were in college, like that is the best place where you're going to meet like these men who we are all there. It's equal. It's the same ratio, and we date in college, but we don't like end up with these guys. Like,
there's not the same ratio of black women to black men in college.
It's
Like,
the same.
it's not.
I think
It's
the
not.
same. I think it's almost the same as how it is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's not.
Well,
There's way more black women
I
in
went
college.
to HBCU, so we had
And it's still
all
more women, but it's still more women than it is men.
No, we was
In
There's a lot
college,
of
yes,
men.
there
There's a lot
is.
of men.
There's still a lot of men. I'm
There
just
are a lot of
saying,
black men, but they weren't looking for the same things. It's like when we were in college, if you think about like either the guys you dated or the guys you messed around with, you weren't really thinking of like that long term to where we are now.
But
Like
we weren't, but the generation before us, like they were.
they were
They
thinking
were.
like, you know what? I'm gonna meet me a man in college. I'm gonna marry
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
gonna have
Yeah.
kids.
I think that's us.
It
A lot of
should've
my
been
friends,
us.
no, but a lot of my
are
friends, they met their man in college and got married.
Yeah.
Like that's just us. I'm saying a lot of people in our age group still did that. They still met their man, whether it was a white institution or an HBCU. They
Yeah.
met their man in college and they married them.
Well,
So,
let me,
sorry.
do you think location makes a difference?
Absolutely.
Because I know
Oh yes.
people in the
South,
South,
they
That's
get
what
married.
I
They
know.
get
But that's what I mean about us
Like
versus
married, yeah.
right. So like we wanted to live a certain way. We wanted to do some things. We didn't necessarily want to get married at 23, right?
Right.
So and that's what that is. When you meet your man in college.
I mean, I could have been married. I lived in the South. I finished college in the South, and I could have been married with probably
Of
two
course.
kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I chose to live a different lifestyle, moving to New York. Dating in New York, I was single for many years. It was much harder to date here because it was not for me. The
It's
cost
not
of
the
But
same.
dating in New York was very
It was-
easy.
See,
Very
experience.
different.
But yeah,
Dating.
At the
Dating,
time.
but actually,
Dating.
But this is
Not
also
the
10 years
same.
ago.
It's also not the
But-
same.
Yeah. it was
I had a
very easy.
hard time dating in New York as far as seriously dating. I could date in New York.
dating and seriously
I
dating
could-
is two
I was-
different things.
I was going on dates every night.
Yeah.
That's different than dating and meeting some quality man that I want to take to the next step.
Right.
That was difficult living in a big city like New York because probably the guys that I was interested in was not ready to settle down. They had too many women, too many options, which I
Yeah.
understand, and that goes back to the ratio. I think the ratio of black women who are available to the ratio of let's just say I'm gonna call it black men because I know personally. Me personally, I know I always want to end up with a black man. I've never dated outside of my race. I've never had the want to date outside of my race. That's me personally. Just me.
Yeah.
I know a lot of black women like that. They
I
want
just
to have
think
a
that
black
when you
family,
find
a
somebody,
brown
if they
family.
black, Puerto Rican, or they white, whatever, they Russian, Asian, if they love you,
Absolutely, absolutely,
just be with them.
The
absolutely.
thing is, like,
I could've
everyone
met
loves
someone-
our men. Our men are like what everyone wants.
Oh yeah,
Right,
everyone
like,
wants a
yeah,
black
like,
man.
everybody wants a black man.
This is a really deep
I mean, I was
subject
like,
to
I'm
start
not gonna go
with,
there
actually.
because
I'm not gonna say
I'm
that,
uncomfortable.
But it's uncomfortable. There's many different races who will date a black man,
Yes.
where black women maybe won't date an Asian
And
or
I
a
think
white
that's part of
guy.
and that's
But
my
they do
point.
not have a problem dating our black
That's
men.
my point. That goes
Facts.
into the
Facts.
ratio going
But
down.
is that about us not wanting to date, or is that about them not wanting to date us? Because you date who approaches you, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So how often? I'm just.
I agree with you.
How often is it that an Asian man is approaching you, or a white man is approaching you?
Oh, I used to always push my white guy.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But you also work. You entertain yourself in certain areas.
Yes.
You work in the finance industry.
Yes.
So your accessibility is different,
Yes.
right?
No.
And if you go to an HBCU, you're not necessarily meeting men of a different race.
Right.
Or if you go into a certain industry, you're not necessarily meeting men of a certain
That's
race.
very
So
true.
that's what I'm saying. That issue it's deep. It's so layered.
It's very
There's so many affects and influences. Like it's hard to say this is the reason. Like because a black woman will talk to someone who talks to her.
Absolutely.
But
Not
then
every
you-
black woman,
but
because some black women
if-
don't know how to have those kind of conversations with someone outside of their race because they either feel like they're intimidated
Because they've never had those conversations with somebody outside of their race.
Well, maybe
That's
that's
it.
the answer to the question why so many black women are single. It's because so many other races are dating our black men,
That is true.
which is leaving them alone.
I would
Because
like
they
to-
don't want to date outside of the race.
I don't know if
I
it's
don't
fair
know.
to just make it that one-sided. I really do think there is, to T's point, many levels to that question. I don't think it's
It is. I don't think it's no one answer.
There's
I
no
don't think it's fair to
Yeah.
say, oh, it's because
Yeah.
Whatever, I'll say it, white women date black men.
All the time.
I don't think that's fair to say that. I do think there's still onus on even black women. I've talked to many black guys who will be like, I approach black girls all the time and try to like, try to do my get to know them thing. And I've had so many black girls turn a cold shoulder to me. That is a real thing. Might not be anybody in this room, but that is a huge
Also depends on where you are, right?
Yeah.
So like, if I'm by myself somewhere, you may not be as like ready to talk and have a conversation because you're protecting yourself, right? Like, I feel like I'm alone. I don't know what this crowd is like. I'm not necessarily being friendly, right? It definitely depends on your approach and where you are and who you are and where you live and what town you're in.
Agreed.
Your entertainment
Then
time.
then I'll put it into perspective for me. I'll talk about me. I know I have absolutely turned a cold shoulder to like even a black guy that approached me that don't look like what I want him to look like. I've definitely done it.
Is it look like? When you say look like
Yes,
what does he have?
all of us do it. All of us
First
do it.
impression, that's all you
All of
have.
us do
Like,
it.
what does he have on, or like you
Like,
know?
what he looks
That's
like.
the package.
All package.
But I think, but
Without
I, but
even like, okay, they say hi, and then you turn around and you be like, some sneakers is beat up.
no, yes, and
Yes,
I would
and
be
no.
honest.
Yes. I always say hello.
Blocking your
I
blessings.
always say hello.
Hey,
Every person here has done that.
No, we have.
Yeah.
we
Person
have.
does not lie. Every single person has done that.
Well,
I say hello.
I'm always.
I always say
I was
hello.
like, oh, I'm good, but
I
I'm
for
good.
sure always say
I
hello.
have done that. I've definitely
Good.
done that to
I'm
black
good.
men in the
I'm
past.
good.
I've done, he don't really
I'm gonna do that to any
he's not
man.
really
I'm gonna
good.
look down. I'm gonna like.
But who knows? You could have passed on something that could have been really great.
It could have been amazing.
I'm done.
Because you didn't
Got
have
on
this
dirty shoes,
entertainment.
shoes,
I think
it's
that's
over.
what it
Yeah.
was.
But I don't think you have to
Anything, black, white,
entertain
whatever.
Yeah,
Like, if
I
your
mean,
shoes not right, it's not happening.
That's a very, very layered question.
It
And I don't
is,
think
it
there's
is.
one answer.
There's
I
not
don't
one
think it's
answer.
also fair to say why are black women
Yeah,
single. I
that's-
know a lot of single white girls. I know a
true.
lot of single
That's
Spanish girls.
That's
You know,
true.
so I think it's very layered.
I just think that we just need to be open as women.
Absolutely.
That's really the thing. Be open. Understand you have like your check boxes and the things that you're looking for in a man, but just be open to the conversation. Be open to the person when you meet them, because you just never know.
Absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this.
Absolutely.
Do you think black men are afraid to commit?
No.
No. Absolutely not.
What about black men in the north?
Black men in
Or
the
does it take them
northern, in
longer?
the inner city, it definitely takes them longer. If you meet a black man and they and it also depends on like how did they grow up.
Mm-hmm.
Like a black man growing up in the inner city, talking about like an urban community,
Mm-hmm.
one single parent, not having both parents in your house, it's gonna be harder for them to commit because that's not what they're used to.
I disagree.
I think it's a
I
very
disagree.
I don't.
personal
I
thing.
think
This is
Yeah.
I
again
don't think
super
you
layered.
can-
It's so
Yeah.
deep.
I don't
Like if
think-
we're talking about
Yeah.
the family construct of the inner city black man, I don't know that we are equipped and like have the
Yeah.
real psychology behind that.
I don't
right?
have the psychology, but I can tell you
Your
what I
opinion.
see. And I've seen it. I've seen most men, if you meet them and they've grown up with a two-parent household, they respect the two-parent household, they respect marriage, they respect commitment. That's what they see, that's what they know, that's what they're gonna want to emulate. When you date guys who come from just a mother, don't know who their father is, drug addicted parents and stuff, there's a difference. Trust me, I've dated them all, so I can tell you. Yes, there's a difference.
I just don't think you can generalize it like that.
I'm just gonna say my opinion. I think
very
that
personal.
a guy that you meet that possibly that's from down south and grew up in a two-parent home and grew up with parents that's married, they value relationships different. They value women different. That's just my honest opinion. That's my opinion.
I think like once men get a professional job too, they want that wife. Like it's a part of like that whole like corporate culture too. And I think a man, when they settle down, they are ready to settle down. It's not about like
correct.
your family structure. It's like I'm ready for this wife. I'm ready for this life, and they commit to it.
But it's
or
all-
they meet that person that they can't imagine not being without, and they're like, this is it. So I don't think it has anything to do with the background. It's like where you are in life, because you could be a hoe when you're in college, you could be a hoe right out of college, but then you're like, I'm 30, I have this job, and I'm ready for this life, and you commit to settling.
When they know,
Not
they
settling,
know.
but you
right?
settling
Ready.
down.
I think that statement is a broad stroke. I think that a lot of times when you meet a man and he's ready, it's literally timing and mindset, right? So you can meet someone that, like you said, has, you know, been running the streets to do whatever, but they meet someone, not just the person, but also the timing when they meet the person, and everything clicks, everything changes, the trajectory changes because they're like, oh, well, maybe I'm ready to do this, or maybe they saw someone that inspired them, like, if I want this person right here, I'm going to change my outlook, I'm going to change.
And I see how much better his life is now that he has
married.
this partner.
He's enriched by this partner.
And
so I
these
think
things
that's
happen. No, I agree. And I think that what you're saying, there is some truth to that, right? So when you grow up a certain way, there is some tendency to emulate that thing.
Correct.
So if you see a family structure, you want that family structure. If you see a different family structure, you might gravitate towards that family
Or
structure.
you might
as
not
well.
even know how to love like that because you haven't been raised to see that.
Right, but you also have to want to do that, right?
Exactly.
So
it is
you
just
don't
hard.
defeat
It is
yourself.
hard.
It's
I'm telling
about
you,
you.
it's hard for a black man who has not seen that. Trust me, I've had conversations with black men about that. Like, I haven't seen that, so I don't really know.
But I think
How in the
but I
Cosby
think-
Show
but I
era,
think-
we've
but I
seen
think
it.
I think
You've
it's
seen
not-
it.
I think it's
You've
very
seen it.
different.
Yeah, you've
but-
seen it on TV.
Right, but still,
I think it's
but,
very different.
But onus is on them. Not all of us were equipped with everything in the
Of
book, right?
course.
For
So
sure.
if you want this, you go after it and you figure out how to fix whatever you have on your plate. I don't think that everyone gets a pass because of
No, I'm not
everything-
saying it.
Yeah, I'm
bad,
just
but
saying
I say that's where they struggle.
I think it's not that easy. I agree
Yeah,
with you,
it's
but I think it's
struggling.
still hard to say that because you grew up not seeing this, you don't want this.
It's a challenge. You struggle. You struggle with that.
And people who saw the family construct are still very confused about what that looks like, because just because you were married doesn't make you faithful.
And doesn't
And
make you
just
happy.
and it doesn't make you respect a woman or a man, and it doesn't so that's what I mean about the psychology behind it. It's just too hard to say because I came from a broken home that means I don't respect a broken I don't respect a family situation. I don't respect a 2-parent household.
You would think that it would want. I'm telling you, you would think that okay, I grew up this way. I should want more, and I should do better. But people, I'm telling you, it's generation after generation. They emulate what they see.
Sure.
It's
There's some truth to that.
And
I
I
get
agree
you.
that.
I get you.
Because I agree to an extent, or what you're saying. I totally agree with that. I just think that again, it's so convoluted. But I think
These
it's
some challenging questions this time.
Yeah,
First thing you might, you know.
We need like a PhD.
Yeah.
Like an ED. We need some therapy.
We definitely.
But it's like even as women, you bring to the relationship how your mom treated your
Father, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And how your father loved you.
Yes.
and how your
And that's
father
how
loved
you that's
how
what
you
you
know
want
how
in
to
a man,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
You want the man that your father was,
Mhm.
and no matter how great your father was, or no matter how confused your father was, or complicated your father was, you look to dating that person.
But what
Or-
about when you
or-
don't know who your father is, and you grew up with a mother, and you don't know who your father is, so then therefore you struggle with how to love and what love really means. I'm telling you this because I know people who struggle with that each and every day.
I struggle with that each and every day, and my parents were married,
Same.
and like I think it's not that easy. Yeah,
You know, we've talked about
Yes,
this.
it's
Me
just-
and Tia have very serious conversations about that.
because it's just not that easy. Just because our parents were married doesn't make it a healthy relationship.
Correct.
Doesn't teach you how to have healthy relationships with men. It's just so much more complicated than that. So yeah, and then my parents they separated when I moved out. I went to college and then my parents separated. It doesn't mean that you learned how to love because your parents were married, or because you were a little more affluent, or you came from a middle class family, or you had to go through a struggle in order to be aggressive and hustle and be an entrepreneur, or and need somebody who comes from the same struggle. It's not that black and white.
We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back.
Ladies These were some deep.
Those are too deep. We need to go back to life.